Ashton, I hope we get to see Woods today.
He's sleeping right now.
Well,
I just put him down.
Just go wake him up. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. If he gets up, I'll bring him out. Hopefully he stays asleep.
Well, all right. It is 2:01, so wanted to get started. Now last month we had our panel discussion with Ashton and Kartik, and with our newer agents that have just rocked it. So I thought, why not have some of our more seasoned agents talk to us about things that they've done throughout their career that has helped them. So, because we know, I believe the national average is that like a high statistic of people get out of real estate within their first 5 years. So obviously with Earleene having gotten licensed in 1988, which I saw that your anniversary is coming up, Earleene, on February 19th. No, wait. I'm sorry.
No, it's June.
June. Leslie was licensed in 1998, 10 years after Earleene, and her anniversary is coming up in this month. So, anyways, first of all, thank y'all for participating and being open to my questioning and asking you to join us. So Earleene, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about what you did before real estate and what made you to decide to pursue this career.
Oh, me. I did a lot of things. I was maintenance secretary at the hospital. I sold home interiors for a while when it was real popular. I was the bookkeeper at a bookstore at one time. I was a dental assistant once.
Jack of all trades.
So, yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. But I just did, like I said, I just did a little bit of everything. The biggest part of my stuff was in retail, though.
Gotcha. So what made you decide to try out real estate?
Well, actually, I decided to do it when I was buying my house. Friend of mine was selling real estate, and I was working with her. And I thought, I think I might like to do this. So
there we are.
Yep.
Leslie, what about you? What did you do before real estate and what got you into this career?
Yeah, well, how far back did you want me to go? Like out of high school or what?
Whatever. Sure. Whatever you want to share.
It is kind of funny though, because I've always kind of been in a customer service type field. I worked for my uncle at Mr. Penguin Tuxedos forever. And then I went to Memphis for a little while and I worked for Chevrolet. I met a guy at Chevrolet whose wife was working for FedEx. And he said, you ought to get on over there. They pay really good and such. So I did. And I got in the Treasury Department. Then I went to send my mom a package on her birthday. And she was going to drive to Indiana to pick up the FedEx package. There was no deliveries in Paducah. So as soon as I saw a courier come on for Paducah, I knew they were opening an office. So I got on. I was the first of 3 couriers that was hired in Paducah. We actually met at Cannon Plaza and decided who wants to go to Mayfield today, who wants to go to Murray. It was like just whatever, who wants to do what today. So I did that for 11 and a half years. And then I kind of took a break. I had my last child, Andrew, and a friend of mine, actually Bobby and Teresa Purcell, was selling Amway. I got to talking to them. I did that for like 2 years, like full time. And then Bobby said, hey, I'm thinking about getting my real estate license. What do you think? I said, I think I would love it. So we got our license at the same time. And so that was my story.
Awesome. What do you think is the most rewarding thing about this career, Earleene?
The people you meet, the relationships you build. I mean, I've met so many people I've gotten so close to through this process. Some of my favorite though are first-time home buyers.
I agree. Those are my favorite ones to work with as
Yeah,
well.
because they appreciate what you do and they get so excited.
Mhm.
So that's to me is the most rewarding thing though, is the people. I mean, there's just so many people, like I said, that have become really good friends in this process.
Yeah. Leslie, what about you?
Pretty much ditto what Earleene said. The only other thing, it's not always happy, but it is rewarding. And that is when someone is selling the estate of their parents and maybe they don't live here anymore, or they don't have anybody to trust, they don't know what to do. And sometimes that's really rewarding, because when you work with people through a traumatic time in their life that they have to sell a piece of property, regardless of what that reason is, and you can be a comfort place for them, I really enjoy doing that.
I
Yeah.
agree. One of my most memorable ones was an estate sale, and we all sat around the closing table and cried. Then they sent me flowers and like a necklace and stuff, and they were just the sweetest people ever. So, so opposite of rewarding, Liz, I'll let you go first on this one. What do you find is the most challenging thing in this career? Or a story that you found the most challenging, and what did you do to overcome it, or how do you overcome that?
Well, it's a struggle to be busy and give really good client care. Now, I'm not talking about client care in the process. I'm talking about after the fact. Of course, Keller Williams has taught me a lot about that, but you still have to do it. It just doesn't magically fall in place. And you get started on it, you make these phone calls, and then all of a sudden you stop, and then it's like 2 weeks, oh geez, I haven't done what I'm supposed to do with client care. So sometimes that is a struggle. And the way I'm overcoming that is just by being more diligent to put my information in when I get a listing or when I get a buyer, instead of waiting 6 months and doing all of them at one time. And another thing that's, I don't know if you really, guess you would call it a struggle, would be when I first got in real estate, and probably Earleene too, you really didn't have a home inspections. It was kind of an odd thing to have a home inspection. So I got in about the time that home inspectors were just creeping onto the scene. And so that was a big struggle for me, and it still is where you draw the line. What do you say? What do you don't do? You just have to know your people.
Yeah, I had no idea that was a newer thing. So
yeah, I think Kimberly, Earleene, you can probably answer me for sure. I don't think it's been but maybe 10 years that they've had to be licensed.
Time gets away from you so quick. I do know that they didn't really start doing home inspections till in the mid-90s. And they didn't have to be licensed then. And some people just decided they could be one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was causing a lot of problems too. And that's why the KAR kind of rallied, and, we're kind of the reason they had to get licensed, I think, because we pushed them to that point.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Earleene, what about you? What's one of your biggest challenges, or what do you find challenging, and how do you overcome that?
I'm with Leslie. A lot of that negotiation is really hard. Negotiating, because you get a house, you have to negotiate. You get a house under contract. Then they have a home inspection done, and you negotiate again. And it's just a lot of the negotiation and everything. And it has a lot, of course, to do with the personalities of the agents you work with too. And you have to know that, and have to figure out how to work with them and get it done. The other thing that's challenging is time, and making yourself take the time to do what you need to do. But then it's just like today, I had 3 meetings, and I had pictures I had to go get, and I'm doing a listing, and it was like, okay, how do I get this all done? And you just have to step back sometimes and take a deep breath and say, okay, and keep track of your thing. And another thing that's really challenging to me is something I just finished getting done, taxes, and keeping up with all of that stuff.
Yes.
sticking receipts in just an envelope and everything. At the end of the year, go, okay.
Yep, that's one thing I wish I had learned right from the very beginning, because now 5 years into it, I'm trying to clean up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, every year I swear I'm gonna get my QuickBooks and I'm gonna work it, and all I gotta do at the end of the year is print it out. Do I get that done? I did it for about 4 years and it's so much easier, but yeah.
it's one of my going back to talking about the book. I've talked about it like every meeting since we hear. One of my tactics is every day going on QuickBooks now and making sure that all my transactions are done. Because if I look at it for 5 minutes a day, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to figure it out later. But if you're a newer agent, which I know we've got Tracy, I think you're newer, correct? I think not sure who iPhone is, but anyways, if you're a newer agent, just talking to a CPA is so important. Getting your LLC formed, all those, just do it now versus trying to do it 5 years from now. So Leslie, what would be your top 3 tips for someone who is just getting started?
Well, that one's easy. I would say community involvement. By that, I mean your chamber, your just any parts of I can't think of everything, Rotary, all those things that you can join that you might not be a member of. And always wear your name tag, even if you're going to the grocery store. I've gotten lots of clients in the grocery store before, or met people that I had sold houses to, and I would have never known who they were, but they went, "Oh, what's that?" I'm like, "Oh, don't know your name, but I'm glad you saw mine." And I cheated because I had my name tag, but they wouldn't have spoken if they didn't know me. So I try to always wear my name tag. I try to stay in the community as much as possible. I probably do. I don't know. It seems like I do a lot. I really do. I try to get on, with the exception of the last couple of years, I'm always trying to get on county boards, on city boards. I was on like the Boys and Girls Club for 7 years. I mean, you just got to get out there where you are going to force yourself to meet new people. And then my number one thing is cards, 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 and more cards. I have written cards for probably 20 years and I'm still doing it. I finished them up today. I always do them on Mondays, whether that's a client card or whether you get the people in the news and you send them congratulations on your promotion, put your business card in there, make it personal. It's not just a stamp, with something. I spell out what they did. And so I've done that for years and years. And if I hear it on TV, if I see it in a magazine, if somebody's opening a new business, I try to always do that. And I think it has helped my business a lot.
It's awesome. I can attest to you actually doing that, because I remember Perry when he first got started at Paducah Bank.
That's right. I remember that now.
It's like, Leslie sent me a card. I think I texted you and was like, "Stay off my man."
Yeah, you did.
I know that's a habit I've been trying to pick up now too. So I do 2 cards a day, 10 a week, and looking through I have a reminders list on my phone now, that if I see something on Facebook that I'm like, oh, that'd be a good reason to send someone a card, I just put it on there. And then that way, when I'm writing my cards, I can just go to my list and see like who to write to. But that's a really good idea as far as the, promotions, anything in the news and whatnot. So thanks for sharing those.
The more that we get into the electronic age, used to that was the only way to communicate with people because you didn't have any other way to see them at a meeting or what. And more people get texts, they get hello on Facebook, they get emails, but very few people will actually send you a card in the mail to your home or to your business that you have to open.
Yeah.
It's just, I've always enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, I've been doing, I guess, the past 2 weeks now, and I had a couple of people text me and say, "Thank you so much for the sweet card." I'm like, it is nice getting that. So, Earleene, what about you? What are your top 3 tips for people getting started?
I agree with Leslie about the handwritten notes. The other thing I've tried to tell people is whenever you have a cross sale, work with those people. Don't try to do the one-upsmanship. Try to work with them. Let them feel like you value them. I mean, and I've fallen by the wayside in the last few months because it's been kind of crazy with me. But I usually write a thank you note to anybody after I have a cross sale or a sale. And because you're going to be working with them for a long time, and they need to feel appreciated. And you'd be amazed how much easier that makes your deals go. The other thing is education. Ask questions, and going, and during the COVID it's hard, but a lot of people like this online learning, but going to a live class, because you network, number one, and number two, you learn so much from other people because they ask more questions and tell more stories, and you learn stuff during breaks and stuff. So when they start having live classes again, I would highly suggest at least get one of your education classes live and outside your board.
Yeah.
I would also suggest getting involved with the board and doing things. I mean, Leslie talked about the clients, so I'm going to talk about the board stuff, and get involved with them because you can actually learn things there. I'm highly involved in the state and have been for years. But the big thing to me is number one, working well with the other agents. And number two, getting education. And number three, following up and keeping in touch with your past clients.
Yeah.
Most of my business this last year was referral or past clients.
Yep. I know I love being involved with the state stuff too, like the people that you meet. I know Earleene and I both have done leadership KYR. Leslie, have you ever done that too?
Yes, I did it in 2007 or 2008.
Okay. Highly, if you guys have any questions about doing something like that or getting involved, some of my most dearest friends I have met through that. And it's always nice when you are facing something and you're just wondering how to handle a situation or a deal, to call someone outside of this area and just be like, what do you do in this situation? So it's nice to have those connections. So as I stated earlier, there's a huge percentage of people that quit within 5 years of getting their real estate license. So Earleene, what would you tell someone if they told you, well, I think I'm going to get it out of the business? What would you tell them?
Well, number one, yes, it can absolutely kill you sometimes and work you to death, but it's also a very flexible business. There's not any other business if you will work. And I mean, I'm not one of these that keeps my nose to the grindstone and goes out and knocks on doors and all that. But if you're willing to work it, you're not going to make any more money anywhere else. I would say when somebody's getting ready to quit, and you will get that way. Everybody does with any job, but especially this one, because you'll hit a dry spell for a while and you go, everybody else is selling something, why can't I? And that's common. But the thing to do is, number one, talk to other realtors that are your friends and get some encouragement from them. And get out there and start making some phone calls and start getting some business. And when you start getting that business, you don't want to quit when you start getting those good checks.
Yeah. Leslie, what about you? What would you tell someone that's thinking of quitting?
Well, it would be according to how long they've been in the business, but they haven't been in very long. I would probably say if you haven't done the work by now, you're probably not going to do it in the next 3 years. So just don't waste your money if your heart's not in it, because as we all know, all we do is put signs in the yard and then collect our checks. That's all we do. So when people figure out there's a lot more to it, sometimes they're not willing to make those sacrifices to do that. But my best story on somebody wanting to quit when I was with Century 21, there was a new agent that come in, and her name was Tony Strickland. I didn't know her from Adam. I knew her husband, worked with my sister. I knew his name, but I'd never met her. And about a year in, she said, "I'm not doing this. There's too much work to it. I have not sold much." And she was just going on. And I remember saying to her, "Tony, you got to stick with it. You have what it takes. You just need to, she said, "I just don't like all this working at night," and on she went. Well, look at the MLS and see where she's at in the MLS now. So I'm sure she is glad she didn't quit. So our encouragement can help people.
This question wasn't on the list of questions, but both of your answers kind of made me think of this question. Do you have any advice for people on how to achieve a good, healthy work-life balance? Because I think that's one of the biggest things a lot of us struggle with is making that time for family and friends and ourselves versus, jumping at the phone every time it rings. So whoever wants to answer that first, because I know I threw it on you guys without preparation.
I would say treat people like you. What is that word law? Teach people how to treat you. I wished I would have learned that years and years ago, because I was one of those agents that jumped up every time. And so probably the last 10 years, I don't have my phone beside my plate of food at supper. I usually try to turn it off unless there's a crisis going on of something. I might leave it and make sure, but I think that would be the number one thing. Take lunch. I know we don't like to think about taking lunch, but give yourself at least 30 minutes of lunchtime because you need to decompress yourself for the day. I work at home now and I leave my phone on my desk and I get a magazine or something while I'm eating. As much as balancing your family and your work, it's balancing yourself, because if you balance yourself and you're good with that, then all the other parts of your life will fall into place. Except when you've just had a new baby. And I haven't done that in a long time, so I can't help you with that one.
Give us a few more months and we'll have Ashton do another thing on balancing that.
Right.
Earleene, what about you? What do you have to say?
I agree totally with Leslie. And the one thing I learned, and it took me a long time to learn it, is when you got something that you want to do with your family, you put it on the calendar. And when somebody asks, you say, "I have an appointment at that time, but," and don't tell them you've got a family thing, or don't tell them you've got an appointment to get your hair cut or that you're getting a manicure. Just say, "I have an appointment at that time." That was a hard thing for me to learn to do, but once I learned that, it's very freeing.
Yeah.
True. Very true.
Yep. I use that bold law all the time. I think of that all the time. Of you teach people how to treat you, because that is so true. I don't respond to phone calls before 9 a.m. because I don't want people thinking that I will always do that.
Well, and not only that, we call ourselves professionals, and professionals don't do that.
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick story. My friend Christy, she is an agent out of Henderson, and I met her through state stuff. But she told a story about when she was on a weekly radio show. And one day, for some reason, her daughter came with her, and the host just asked her daughter, "Well, how do you like your mom being in real estate?" And so she thought her daughter was going to have this answer of, "Oh, it's wonderful. I love my mom being, blah, blah, blah." And she goes, she just tells us to shush all the time. She realized, every time she's on the phone, she's telling her kids shush, and whatnot. And, that, so they're sitting at the table. She's telling them to shush at the dinner table and whatnot. So she said she kind of had an eye-opening experience with that, which I don't think I'd want that eye-opening experience for lots of people to hear. Leslie, who's been one of the biggest role models for you in your career?
Well, do you want the very first person that made the biggest impression? Is that maybe?
Whichever, whoever you want to share.
Okay, well, I'll say early in my career, and still in some facet today, would be Betty Higdon, my broker when I was at Century 21. She was very level-headed. Everything was black and white. There was no gray matter in the middle. If you did something wrong and you went to her, she'd say, well, you screwed up, but this is what we got to do. Or the biggest, I don't know if this was this question or not. So if I mix my questions up, was one thing that I think that's on what's the biggest lesson that you learned. So the biggest lesson I learned from her would be to treat every single client the same, whether you're selling a piece of land or whether you're selling a $900,000 house. And again, that goes back to, I wished I would have known, teach people how to treat you, because I had been selling, I guess, maybe about 5 years. And I had my first really big house at the lake, was a doctor here in Paducah. And he was going through a divorce, and the wife called me to list her house. He did not like me from day one. He made me sit out in the hallway of his office. And when he felt like it, he would come out and sign whatever I needed. This is way before, guys, no cell phones, no electronics, none of that kind of stuff. You had to physically get signatures on everything. And he purposely would just ignore me that I was sitting there and I'm selling a $700,000 house. And he would talk awful to his nurses, and he would just talk bad to me. And so I went to Betty about it. She said, well, your number one problem is you call him Dr. So-and-so. She said, what's his first name? I told her. She said, so when you go in, you say, John, I have some papers that I need for you to sign. And she said, that brings them, if they're haughty. I'm not saying every doctor's like this, because they absolutely are not. But he was, and he thought he was above everybody. He was a neurosurgeon. And he said, she said, when you say John to him, he's going to look at you and go, oh, she just called me John. So she said it brings them down from their high horse if they're on one. So there again, don't misunderstand me. Anybody on this call, I'm not saying all doctors are rude and hateful, but another thing he did was he used the most horrible language that I don't even think I'd heard some of those words before at that point. And I feel really sad for those nurses and all in his office, because he talked to everybody that way. And I shared that with Betty, and she says, well, what you can do is you can walk out, and say, when you're in a better mood, here's these papers, you let me know when you have them signed, and just leave them and walk out. And I got the guts to do that. And that was probably the best lesson I ever learned.
Awesome. Earleene, what about you? Who's one of the biggest role models in your career? And if you want to go ahead and tell us also one of the biggest lessons you learned, you can put those together if you want.
Well, I would have to say the one person that I kind of always looked to and tried to figure out what she did. And she was always so professional, and it looked like everything was so easy for her. And she was absolutely the top producer in Murray at the time, and that was Frankie McNutt. Frankie was always calm. She was always in control, never a hair out of place, clean car all the time. And it was just kind of like, she was real good friends with the hospital administrator. So she got all the doctors. She got, always professional. And she was really kind of one I really looked up to a lot. And I think, how can I get more like that? As you can tell, I'm still not there. It never will be.
Biggest lessons you've learned in real estate?
She wants to take the fifth.
Always fake it till you make it. That's one of them. Somebody asks you a question. You don't lie, but when you're new, what your answer should always never be, I don't know. It should be, let me double check on that and make sure. Let me double check on that and I'll get back with you. But don't just say, I don't know. Just say, I'll check on that and I'll get back with you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying lie, don't tell people you're new, because, and if they know you're new, one of the things to say is, yeah, I'm new, but that means I work harder because I've really got to work hard to get my business going. So, I mean, to me, that was one of the biggest challenges I had was when I started, getting to know exactly what to do and how to do it. Um, and learning people and learning how to handle people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know when I first got started, I remember someone telling me like, well, I think we want to go with a more experienced agent. I'm like, well, I'm brand new in this, and that means I'm just going to have to work harder. I'm not, my time's not split between 20 other clients right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I can focus a lot on you, and I've got the experience of several agents behind me that I can always ask questions.
Right.
I'm not afraid to ask those questions. So, if you're a newer agent, script training on that question and having an answer ready to go will help you go a long way with it. So Leslie, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Do you still hope to be doing real estate? What are your thoughts? Where do you hope to see yourself in 5 to 10 years down the road?
The difference between 5 and 10 years is a lot at my age, but I think that I want to be able to be living life really big. And because of that, I want to work on my downline. Because I work for Keller Williams, I was explained how to never have to go and pull up my sign out of the yard and say, I'm retiring, see y'all later, I'm going to Florida or whatever. I always want to be a face of real estate, in the local area. I would like to have my downline bigger, so my profit share checks and Earlene's would be bigger. And then I have expressed interest in a couple of market centers that I would like to invest in. And I would like to be free to go visit those offices a couple times a month, maybe, or at least once a month, and just kind of be an encourager. And I just think that that's where I would like to be in 5 to 10 years, 10 years for sure. I don't want to ever say I'm pulling up my sign. I'm hoping that Kennedy will be old enough to change the face on my signs and she can be that face. I'm just kidding about that. But anyway, that would
She's
be.
already a good worker for you.
If I could only video everything that she did when she's in my office working with me, it would just keep you rolling. I mean, just totally rolling. She said the other day something about an appointment, and I said, well, I don't remember telling you I had an appointment. What are you talking about? She said, to show a house. I said, no, honey, I don't have an appointment today. She says, well, I can remember things, but now that's another story. So she's right. I can't remember a lot of things, but I do hope that I don't ever have to say it's my last day in real estate.
Yeah. And I love that with Keller Williams, that's totally possible. I know with my old brokerage, like those options weren't really there, but your downline, your market, investing in market centers and whatnot, like that's all a possibility with Keller Williams. So
yeah, I mean, because you can invest in any office if there's an opening. It doesn't have to be in Kentucky,
mm-hmm.
And that is probably what pushed me over the edge to join Keller Williams, where that, when I pass away, there's still money coming into my estate because of the work that I did, for 25 years or what.
Yeah. Earleene, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Well, within 5 years, I plan on being really part-time. I just can't imagine myself not ever having my real estate license though. But I don't want to be out showing houses when I'm 85 years old either, like some people.
Yeah.
We'll leave that one at that.
Yes. Yes.
Earleene, I want you to retire before some of these have, okay?
Yeah, I plan
Exactly.
to. I plan to.
Well, that is all the questions that I have for you. So I figured if y'all are okay with it, we'll open the floor up for any other questions that anyone else has. You guys are all muted, but feel free to unmute yourself. And
Can I tell you one of my favorite stories about a sale I'd had?
of course,
And these people, every time they see me, they holler my name and they come up and hug me and everything else. But I had a client that I had worked with, and they found a house that they really, really wanted. And the bad thing is, I think Velda was buying it. But anyway, and y'all had a first right of refusal on it, didn't you? Yeah. Velda's in the office now. She had a first right of refusal on it. And so they made an offer on it. And I called him up, and they were so excited. They wanted the house so bad. And so when I found out they had gotten it, they teach you the first thing you ever say when somebody answers the phone is congratulations, you bought a house, because that way they can't say before you say anything, I've been thinking about that and I want to withdraw the offer, So I just said, he answered the phone. I said, congratulations, Russell, you just bought a house. Dead silence. I said, Russell, are you there? Russell? And then I could hear him. He was crying. He said, oh, Earleene, I never thought I would ever have anything this nice in my life, and I owe it all to you. And he cried and he cried. And I want to tell you what, folks, that makes you realize why you want to sell real estate.
got goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
perfect. That
cried
made
with
me
him
tear
after
up.
he said that.
Yeah. Well, that's really sweet. So, does anybody have any questions? If you don't want to ask, or if you're not in a place where you can ask, feel free to send it in the chat, and I'll kind of keep an eye on that. But
I have a question, if I can
yeah, go
ask,
for it.
if that's okay. How did y'all experience changes in the market and like the market crashing? What are some of, how did that go over in the area? The market crashed in 2008. And right now we're on the up, everything's going up, up, up. Do y'all, just with all your experience, what are y'all, do y'all have are y'all thinking something's going to happen based on what you've seen in the past?
There will always be a shift in the market, always. And it is coming. But the thing you've got to remember is when there's a shift in the market, there is always still there's less people buying houses. And what happens during that time, and I've been through several shifts, and Leslie has too, but what happens during that time is you keep on keeping on, because there's always going to be people buying houses. And you will find what happens is there's people out there, there's fewer people buying houses, but several months into the shift, there's also fewer agents selling houses. And then when that upturn starts, you're there and they're not there anymore. And before people start joining back in, you're going to have a real busy time. But also, this area does not get hit as hard as most areas do when there's a shift.
That's good.
I'd heard that
Yeah, I
before
would
too when I first got started. That Murray, and at least Murray Callaway, kind of stayed very even through in 2008.
Yeah.
Sorry, Leslie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that during a shift, you have to keep doing what you've always done, and that's staying in contact with your clients, checking on them, that sort of thing. Because as Earleene said, there'll be people that will just fall off, and they may keep their license for whatever reason. I don't know they did, but they do. And then if they fall off the way and you're still active, then they're going to see that whether you've got 2 listings or 25, they're still going to be able to see that you're active. And you have to plan for shifts, especially you younger people. You're going to go through lots and lots of shifts. And I remember someone told me a long time ago to think about real estate as a roller coaster. And if you want to look it up because it's true. Go back to 1980 and it's always like a roller coaster. There's an up and then there's a little bit of a down. Now, sometimes that down isn't as down as it can be, but there's always a roller coaster. So when people get in the market in these last 2 years and they've sold and sold and sold, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe I'm not doing my job. It's just a shift in the market. So redo what you're saying, but there's a roller coaster effect with real estate and it almost is the same. It very seldom spikes really, really high or drops devastating low. It'll just almost be an even kill. So as long as you know that's coming, you can prepare for it. Don't spend all your money. Keep a good savings, keep things in case things do get bad for a couple of months and you don't get a check. That's the best thing that I can tell you. But like Earleene said, it's coming. We can't stay at 2.6% forever. And what's happening now is all of you know, we don't have anything to sell. So that's a shift. You know, that's a shift. We have to get out there and find the listings. But always remember, in real estate, you got to have listings to last. Buyers don't keep you in the market. Listings to last.
Exactly.
You've got to have listings to stay in the business.
Yes. He who owns the listings owns the market.
That's right.
So go get those listings. Are there any other questions? Ashton, that was a really good one. Anyone?
Now, who would have thought this many women could stop talking in 45 minutes? You did good, Kimberly.
Well, thank you guys again for joining and participating in this. Really appreciate your wisdom. And I know that there's been several times I've called either one of you and said, what would you do in this situation? And even being in it for 6 years now, just the other day, I called Tammy and I'm like, this is the first time this has happened to me. What would you do? And just having people that are willing to share and stuff just can make just the world of difference. So thank you guys so much. And thanks everyone for listening. And we'll do another forum discussion in March. If you have time this week to listen to the podcast that I posted at an event about, I haven't gotten to listen to the podcast yet, but I'm really excited about it. It's with Chris Voss, which I heard him speak at the Global Leadership Summit. And I've got his book. I just haven't read it yet, but he is a FBI negotiator. And he talks about how negotiating, what he can help with in terms of real estate and how that can apply to us. So that's going to be on Thursday afternoon. So hopefully you guys join us for that. And thanks again, Leslie and Earleene. We really appreciate it. So
You're welcome. Enjoyed it.
Thank you so
Enjoy.
much.
We all have a great day and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.